The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
On behalf of ValuSource, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. And without any further ado, I'll hand over to David Fine so that he can introduce our presenter for today.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Fine. I'm the CEO of ValuSource, and I'm excited to be part of and presenting this webinar with Ted Finch today. I've known Ted for a couple of years. He's been a huge help in ValuSource in marketing, and he's a very special guy. He's had an incredible amount of experience, which he'll get into a little more of in both marketing and sales. And he's really a true expert in helping people market and sell products and services. And he's done a lot to help people in both, standard kinds of hard products as well as financial services. And what he's going to talk about today is not just some specific techniques or tools, but I think what's really valuable here is he's going to provide an overview of sort of the marketing process and the marketing context. And I know, even though I've been running ValuSource for 30 years, before meeting Ted, I really never had that context, and it's been hugely helpful to understand, how marketing works, how sales works, what are some of the, it's sort of like marketing 101, because until you understand that, doing individual things to grow a business are sort of tactics, but you really don't understand the strategy or the big picture. So Ted's going to talk about that, and he's going to also talk about some specific things you can do to grow your practice. But he's a goldmine of information. I think he's one of the leaders in the industry, in the country, on marketing and sales. And I'm excited he's part of ValuSource, and I'm excited he's here today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ted, and we will get started on this webinar. I encourage you to take some notes. He's going to go through some awesome material here that can absolutely help you grow not only your valuation practice, but grow any product or service that you want to add on to your valuation practice. So Ted.
Well, thank you very much, David. And I'm pleased to be able to go through this material with everybody. Here's the agenda. First, I'll give a little bit of introduction about myself, try to establish some credibility so I have some credence in the concepts that I'm going to bring up. Then I'll talk about different ways to grow your existing business, how to expand into other areas. Also talk specifically a lot about alliances and how they can be your #1 lead source. I'll give you several different examples of that. And then I'll talk about some specific type of promotions that actually work, they can generate. In my particular case, I run a consulting company of all things. It's called Chanimal. It's primarily because most of my business is building reseller channels for Microsoft, Mitsubishi, Canon, HP, all these other companies. But at the same time, I was a vice president marketing at General Electric, and I was a senior vice president marketing at Motorola, and VP at Harcourt with SeaWorld, Neiman Marcus, and then even the earlier days, I built the world's largest high-tech product launch company, from 13 of us to 4,000 people in 4 years. And so I've managed a lot of different teams, some 3,000 to 4,000 in size. So this is at least some of the background. And then so far as consulting with companies, I've worked with over 400 of some of the premier companies in the world. So most of these names, I think they speak for themselves, everything from Intel to Apple to GE to Corel and 3M and some of the others. But not only these, but also I've worked with probably well over 100 of those have been smaller type companies, and a lot of service companies also. Okay, so the material that I cover has a lot of density, not because it makes for the coolest looking PowerPoint, but because later you can take this deck and hopefully darn near read through the material and remember everything that I'm talking about a little bit better. So here's some of the things we're going to learn how to grow your existing practice. We're going to learn how to add new services, how to select, position, and articulate, specifically this concept called positioning. In other words, why someone would be a fool not to select you. We'll also talk about forming killer alliances, and I'll give you some personal examples of that, and that these will also generate a ton of leads. And then even a couple little things right there, like even how to close 90% of all your businesses, which is what I do when people come from my website. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about a framework. When we're talking about how to grow your valuation practice, so let's get into some marketing theory, but it'll go practical really quick. First, this is not a consolidation strategy, it's a growth strategy. So there's a couple different mechanisms, things that we can actually do if you were to label it, and that is market development, the penetration, diversification, product development, of which we'll go through each one of these. The first way to grow is to make the market bigger. So a lot of that occurs through an educational process or an adoption process. So you educate more and more companies. You do your fair share in educating the companies out there on the value of valuation. Also, sometimes you'll work on different vertical markets, the value valuation. So I'm right here in Austin, Texas. I get a lot of VCs that actually refer a lot of business to me. And some of the startups that I work with are trying to determine what's the value of the company. And even the VCs are trying to determine that. And sometimes some of the larger VCs making large investments in big corporations require a form of valuation. So again, these might be some vertical markets that maybe you just haven't concentrated on, or different divorce attorneys or other different areas, or maybe even moving internationally and developing some expertise in some of the differences in valuation in different market segments around the world, regions. The next way is to penetrate better into existing markets. And so this sometimes is just through promotions. You might run some new different type of promotions or better type of promotions than what you've done before. Here's some of those. We'll talk about these briefly a little bit later on, but you'll notice that all these are prioritized according to return on investment. So from a bootstrap standpoint, whenever I'm working with companies and they're trying to start off their marketing, let's start with some things that have no placement cost, that have a good return on investment. And this here sort of show the sequence. And I'll give you more details about that in just a few moments. The third way to be able to grow is diversification. So one is similar targets, still a product for existing businesses. So let's say, for example, you've got a company, you've done a business valuation. Maybe you also can help them with their taxes or audits or bookkeeping. Again, different ways to be able to grow. And I'll tie all this together real quick. Others might have similar characteristics. So same needs, different market. So for example, valuations for VCs instead of for the actual companies. And then some may be complete different diversification, which is probably not really the focus right here, but at least sort of covering this. So if you know, let's say a lot of times you buy another company and you end up inheriting new markets. And that's how some companies diversify, just through their acquisitions. They sort of pick up stepchildren, and sometimes those products can become very effective. And then the fourth is over here, product development. And so you add new products or services. So, or you add new features to your existing valuation services. Let's say, for example, if you're doing valuations, again, maybe you might do audits or bookkeeping, or maybe you'll do damages because it still deals with some of the valuation expertise, some of the same skill set, but maybe it's a new product area that you would move into. So you'd add entirely new services. And then, but regardless of all of those, sometimes you just position or you have to reposition existing services. Maybe one way to develop your product is maybe to explain it better, so suddenly someone goes, aha, and they think it's a new product even though it's the same exact thing. Okay, so in summary, ways to grow is market development, penetration, penetrate the existing market better, diversifying your market strategy, or pick up new services or new areas. Okay, so the next framework I want to talk about is the 4 Ps of the marketing mix. And again, if I lay these frameworks out, then I can talk about these in context, and you'll sort of see that it makes it a little easier to remember it when it's sort of like a sequential process. So this is the 4 Ps of the product mix, different ways to be able to sort of grow your company. So the first one up here, let's talk about your product, which is a service. So let's say, for example, if you were to move into other areas, you know, the first thing you try to do is market-based. What do your prospects want? So let's say you're doing valuation. Maybe they want valuation, but maybe as a new way for you to grow, they also want you to help them. Okay, so my business is only worth 5 million, or let's say 2 million. How do I make it worth 3 million? You may look at that and say, gosh, I keep getting so many questions about that. Why don't that's obviously what they're asking for. Why don't I start to move into that area? So sometimes some of those might be some current skills, or other times you might be able to have to provide new skills or new capabilities, and you don't have those. And so we'll talk about a build, buy, or line strategy, which is the next part right here. So one is you build. So you learn a new discipline, or you get better with existing area. So maybe you get better certified. Maybe you get certified in different verticals. Maybe you've been concentrating on the value of businesses in, let's say, bike shops. And suddenly you decide, okay, I'm going to stretch from bike shop valuations to accounting firm valuations. So, and sometimes you have to get more certification or get more tools so you can move and do it more quickly. So for example, you might, if you're using spreadsheets, you might move into software, a way that might help you to immediately handle more business with the same amount of time. The other ways to grow into new areas is just buy. So let's say, for example, there's a valuator and he's already got expertise in accounting firms. In valuation for those, you might hire that person So be prepared to pay for it, but you will get immediate results. And then other ways to do this is you might move into some other areas. Let's say, for example, if you want to do business consulting, in addition to building out your valuation practice, but sort of, again, you've already got the account, you've already got the relationship. Let's say you want to provide some of those additional services, but let's say you don't know how, fine. You can form an alliance with non-competing individuals, and I'll show you some samples of these. And this is that whole concept of alliances, and I'll be covering that soon. The next thing over here is when you want to decide which services or even your existing services, sometimes repositioning your existing. So the first thing is, how good are you and which areas are you the most skilled at? And I'll give you an example of a law firm and how we repositioned the law firm so it made it sound like it was a new product. What it really was is it was a better way to penetrate into their existing market. So one way to do that is sort of rate your skills. So like in my particular case, okay, marketing, I'm a 9+. I'm not the best in every single discipline. My sister's the VP of sales for the second largest direct mail house in the world. So obviously she's going to be better at that than I am for direct mail. But at the same time, hold on, let me bump back over here for a second and let's fix my mouse one more time. Okay, so other ways is positioning. I'm one of the strongest, and channel, I'm the #1 channel person in the world. Or sales. So you have to sort of take an analysis of where you're not only good at, but where you're the best at. So you sort of rate your skills. And then how to decide which new services you want to move into. Some will require a little stretch to cover. For example, like when I talked about damages, where you might start doing damage calculations. Some may not even be ones that you want to move into. You may not want to be a graphic designer. I mean, that's just not your forte. You might want to expand on existing expertise to start with, and then use the extra revenue to either hire a new person to move into a new area or to expand in a new area by taking courses, but again, leveraging strengths that you've already got. And then there's a couple ways to be able to do it, sort of horizontal market. Let's say, okay, I'm going to do valuations for the entire market, or vertical market. And so I'll talk about, let's say, for example, if you've been building your practice in one vertical space, and again, we'll use bike shops as an example, and then you want to move into an accounting, it's a whole lot easier than say, I'm going to do valuation for all market segments, of which some of those, the majority, you probably have no experience whatsoever. So it may be harder to push into those areas if you're going up against somebody who does have experience with accounting firms, and you're in a crowded area like let's say Los Angeles or New York or Chicago. So when I talk about a beachhead, you find a single unprotected area that you want to punch through. So I'll give you an example over here. I had a friend and he was a successful VP of sales. He wanted to create a sales training company. And so I said, well, where are you good? He said, well, I'm really good at working major accounts. And he says, so I just want to create one that sort of goes after all the companies. And I said, well, have you considered a vertical? He said, I want to do a vertical. I'm good at all of these different areas. I don't want to leave money behind on the table. The problem is using a horizontal approach. Let's say if you do valuations for all these businesses, then you're the jack of all trades. The problem is if they're doing a vertical search, like accounting firm valuations, you're not going to show up because you haven't specialized even your website for it. So what I recommended is that he find, if he does a horizontal, he's going to go after thousands of sales training consulting companies like the big Zig Ziglars and the Tom Hopkins. What he really wants is find one area. So one area that he was very strong at was technology selling. So this is sort of like a horizontal market where it's a splat, it's painful. You step into the market and you sort of barely penetrate, versus a vertical slice where you can penetrate deep into the market, come up behind your competitors, pull them by the legs and drown them. But at least it gives you some examples of what I mean by this vertical approach of going after different market segments to expand your business. So let me give you an example over here with an attorney practice. A friend of mine, he's the one who helped me incorporate my company. And I asked, and he said, well, can you come into my law firm and sort of help us sort of get things straightened out? We want to start promoting. So the first thing I asked him was, I said, okay, well, what are you guys good at? So they explained that we're good. We can do all kinds. We can do everything from divorce to wills. And I said, okay, where are you best at? And he says, well, we win 90% of all of our appellate cases. We're hired by the other firms in the entire region, all the way from Dallas to Houston to, I'm all over the whole state. They come to us because we have the highest win rate for appellate. So that was their strength. So rather than going in there and saying, okay, we're a divorce attorney, we're a will attorney, we're different types, use appellate as your vertical to slice through and gather up more market there. Once you start working with these firms, if this is the approach that you're taking, they'll find that you're also good in other areas. Just because you're good, just because you're the best in the stated appellate, doesn't mean you're bad in the other areas. But it does mean it helps you to penetrate into the market deeper, get more revenue, and then use that to hire additional expertise, and then go after additional vertical markets one at a time instead of a splat with a horizontal approach. Okay, the other thing too is when I look at Chanimal, my own business, and Chanimal stands for Channel Animal, which is building channels. So what am I good at? Well, there's quite a few areas that I'm good at. But by the way, this is also not the time to be modest. You know, the old Richie Rich, his cousin, had a sign on his yard that said, you know, in the old comic books, if you've got it, flaunt it. If you're the strongest in one of the areas, now's the time to, not the time to be modest, now it's the time to bring it out. So the area where I'm the #1 best at in the entire world is building reseller channels. So for all of these companies, I start with the reseller channels with many of these companies. Then they find out, gosh, you can help us with positioning. You can help us with promotions. You can help us with all this other sets of services. But this is the beachhead because my website's been around for 21 years. It's got 500 pages of content. It's the #1 resource in the entire world. So it's my little spider web that pulls all these people in, and then I can help them with other areas. But if I were to take a horizontal approach, I'd be competing with tens of thousands of people who just hang a hat, you know, put a hat on and says, I'm a top consultant. Okay, so when you're trying to grow your own practice and you're looking at different areas you might sort of extend into, which areas are you best at? So list and then rate how strong you are in each one. Maybe 10 in valuation, maybe 10 in valuation, but maybe 10 in bike shops, but you might be a 3 in accounting. So you find the vertical areas that you're strongest at. Each one of those, you start to strengthen those out and use those as a beachhead to penetrate additional vertical markets. So how do you prove your strongest areas? Well, one of those is testimonials, accreditation, you know, linked by credible sources, referred by more attorneys in town or brokerage firms. Okay, so the other part is even once you're, let's say, the best at like appellate cases, like that one law firm, does the market know that? Can you articulate it? So we've been floating around this concept of positioning, so I'll explain what it is. In layman's terms, give me 3 to 5 reasons why I'd be a fool not to buy your services. If you can't articulate that and you sort of hum and haw all over the place, you have not articulated the strength of your own positioning. Also, you may come up with 3 to 5 reasons, and your competitor may have 3 to 5 better reasons, but chances are they're not writing in this format. And so they'll give somebody 100 reasons why they should use the other firm. You give them 3 to 5. You're forcing the prospect to focus. In return, they're forcing the prospect to figure it all out. They've got to go through 100 features and figure out which ones. And you're also, what you're doing is you're diluting the strength of your own positioning. So they may be better positioned, but they can't articulate it. So you've got to be able to explain yours better. So I'll give you a couple examples. This is a software industry, but it's fax software. Most of us can relate to this. You know, the old days where we actually had fax machines, like the one I had on my top shelf that finally the ink just dried up. I hadn't used it in probably 4 years. So we were up against a bid with Chrysler. They wanted to broadcast fax to brochure to local dealers. The competitor had 2 critical flaws. I'll show you what they are. This is your car with WinFax. That's the competitor. This is your car with CrossFax. Which one will sell more cars? I think everyone can sort of figure out this on the right is better than on the left. Okay, the next thing is it doesn't matter if you've got everything including the kitchen sink. They want to broadcast it out. Well, our competitor couldn't broadcast more than 50. And we had a PC Magazine quote that would prove that because they had this little memory leak in their software. Ours didn't have, if they had 100 features, we had 10. But the ones we had were the ones that mattered. We did grayscale faxing and we did broadcast faxing. That's all that Chrysler cared about. So the result, we beat them. We won a 20,000 unit deal with 2 silver bullets. So, you know, up against your potential competitors in the area, they're not watching this presentation. They could be stronger than you even in accounting, but they may not be able to articulate it, and so you can beat them out anyway. So sometimes, again, it's just a matter of how you articulate those 3 to 5 reasons. I'll give you sort of a structure here in just a second to do that. One of the other ways to do your positioning is just run a comparative matrix. This is a little bit detailed, but you can run some that are fairly simple. It'll give you a good idea of where you're strong, where you're weak, and then that'll help you to sort of determine which of those 5 points. Sometimes you'll take these, it's a little bit more complicated. This is a little easier way to do a body slam. You see your competition, you just sort of shove them all over here because this is maybe a vertical that you do, that none of them do that. There may be other ways, maybe your prices are a little bit better, although I don't know if that's always a big deal for valuations. But maybe you have higher accreditation or some other way to be able to differentiate, but the key is differentiate or die and sit over here among the masses. So the first thing you do when you try to promote is try to find out a hook, something that you can use to promote, something that makes you better, like that grayscale faxing. It's pretty easy to promote that. By the way we sold that, we sent those 2 slides, we faxed them to Chrysler Corporation. And the next morning they placed an order for 20,000 units. Okay, so sometimes it's very easy to articulate it. You just have to sort of have a framework as to what you're going to do. The next thing is then you sort of have to support it. So for example, if I were to say Microsoft Word is the #1 best-selling word processor, 3 reasons why you'd be a fool not to consider it. One is it's the industry standard. It's pretty much it. Helps you to write quicker because it's a word processor, but they all do that. But let's say it helps you to write better. Then it's because it has a spell checker, a thesaurus, a grammar checker. These are like features, things that you provide that other people don't provide. But it's just a simple little logical argument. 3 reasons supported by your features, your specific features. You write the feature now, you describe it, you tell the benefit. That's the format that you would actually write this up in. Okay, then you articulate this in something called the persuasive format. Okay, so I'll show you an example of this in just a minute. But essentially it's just, you have to establish some attention, get the attention, then establish credibility in the valuation space. That's obviously a massive reason why some valuators might be selected, why others would not. And then in this particular case, you have to identify sort of a problem. Maybe you have a problem with valuating the bike shops. And then the solution is going to be you. By the time you're through, you're going to solve world peace. And then there's 3 to 5 reasons why someone would be a fool not to use you. So these are those 3 to 5 reasons that you come up with, your differences that you might find on your competitive matrix. You write those down and you write your feature set the same way that I just mentioned right here. List the 3 reasons and sort of explain what those reasons are and then the benefits. And then you've got to overcome objections, visualization, step to actuate. But let me show you what this actually looks like. So it's easier just to show you. So this isn't a sales pitch. So I work with ValuSource on their product positioning and everything else. And sort of let me show you what this feels like. Okay, so we start over here with something called a persuasive document, and this is just going to pull it up here. And so here's the attention. If you're using Excel, it's like driving a car in first gear. We supercharge Excel and Word exactly for valuations. Like it's like an abacus instead of a PC using a spreadsheet versus the software. So here's the problem. Here's the solution. Here's the credibility. Here's the 5 reasons you'd be a fool not to consider it. And now we're going to use features to prove out those reasons. And this works the same thing with features of a services company. Maybe one of your features is that you can do it in 1 week, while maybe the industry does it in 2 weeks. Maybe your feature is that you have a deeper analysis. Maybe you use more reports than some of your competition. So those would be some of your features. So let's say you might say, I use more reports. And then you might actually even list the different reports and tell the benefit of that is that I give you a much more comprehensive and more believable valuation because of the kind of research that I do that maybe some of the other people don't. So this up here shows you this persuasive document. Okay, that's the foundation. Then we take it from here and let's pop it up and I'll show you what it actually looks like on the website. So now we come over here, and again, I'm using this because you're evaluators, so at least you can relate to the topic versus me using software like genome research software. So it's the #1 best-selling business valuation software. So there's our claim. Of course, in this case, we can substantiate it because it is the #1 bestseller by like 90%. And then I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you'd be a fool. I don't exactly call you a fool in my writing, but that's the concept. 5 reasons you'd be a fool not to consider it. And then over here, I'm actually going to take those and I'm going to articulate those. So this here shows you 5 reasons to consider ValuSource Pro. So if you want to see a format of 5 reasons to consider John's valuation services, and then you would list the reason, you would then describe features that you've got that might give you, maybe again, you're faster, and then you would tell the benefit so that you can get your results quicker. And let's say it's a divorce case, you can divide that $2 million corporation a lot faster, and you can get on with your life if the other person's a bum. Okay, so here it is, 5 reasons to buy, and then there's some additional things in here that actually follow those. Here's a comparative matrix. Over here, some screenshots. It's a visualization step of the persuasive format. Features and benefits really this isn't the selling part. This is the reasons to buy. So this is the reason, the selling reason. Over here is overcoming objections. Like, okay, but does it integrate with my spreadsheet? Does it generate this kind of report? Can I go through and modify those reports to put my logo or change it up any way I want to? So those are going to be found over here, but this sort of shows you how we take that persuasive document and articulate something once it's got good positioning. We've identified what it is, and this is how to present it. So again, this is, sometimes you look at this right here as market development, because this is like a new product. It's the same product, people just didn't know how good you were. So you've now taken your same services and you've now extrapolated those all the way out. Okay, so now let's come over here. So you saw their website, and then you also want to have consistency. This is the product brochure. I shouldn't be showing you this. This is actually going to be shipping out real soon with all the specials and everything else. So consider this a sneak preview. Okay, but look at this. Here's 5 reasons to consider ValuSource Pro. Here's 6 reasons to consider Damages Advocate. Here is 5 reasons to consider BV Data World or the ValuSource databases. So every one of these is written in a persuasive format, and it's just articulating everything in a logical sequence, logical format that sort of makes sense and is persuasive. So your own business, if you want to generate some leads for it and build it out, the first thing you have to do is if somebody comes to your website, you got to convince them that you're the service to get. This is a way to be able to do it. Determine what the 5 areas are that you're the best at. Maybe there's 3. Maybe there's just like 2, like WinFax or CrossFax versus WinFax. But you determine those strengths that you've got. Any more than 5, 6, you're starting to sort of dilute it. Meaning maybe you've got 20 reasons they should consider you. So fine, pick out the top 5. It's a matter of focusing instead of diluting it. Otherwise, it's just sort of like the sun hitting your arm versus a nice big magnifying glass that'll burn your arm a lot quicker. Okay. So
can I say something really quick?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think, for me, one of the things that was sort of an aha moment, like, the lightning bolt was, I consider myself a marketing person. I think ValuSource would have never gotten where it is today without me having some sense of marketing. But this whole idea of, instead of telling people what you do, tell them the reasons why they should consider working with you. It's a slight pivot, but the results are really dramatic, because I think, many of us, even for our products, we would create these big lists of features and what ValuSource Pro does or what some of our databases do, but it's a very different thinking than saying, why should someone consider using our service or our product? So I'd encourage all of you, even now, jot down a couple of notes about why should someone consider using you as a evaluator or some other service you do, not just that you do valuation. What kind of things stand out? And there's a whole list of things, and also start, when you're talking to people, when you're communicating in your newsletters, in however else you're marketing, or if you're giving talks or whatever the other things you're doing out there, if you start including conversations about why people should work with you, think of yourself as an attorney standing in front of a jury. You're making an argument, not to convict someone or not convict someone, but to make a decision, right? So that whole thinking about being persuasive is absolutely huge. It's foundational. And it's one of the reasons why Ted has helped companies bring in, I don't know, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars worth of business, because he switched their whole thinking and their whole process and their whole framework around from being informative to being persuasive. This is gigantic, put exclamation points. And it's a different way to communicate. And there's some subtleties here. And in these slides, you'll get some general ideas on how to do this. You don't have to bite off this big chunk and make giant brochures and all those kind of things. I know a lot of evaluators don't do that. But the essence of this message, I think you can absolutely take to heart, in that, when you're talking to people, whenever you're communicating, you're using a persuasive kind of a style in thinking from the customer's eyes, answering the question, you know, why should I work with this person? Or as Ted says it, you know, what are the 3 reasons you'd be a fool not to talk to me? Okay, Ted.
Good. Thank you very much, David. Okay, the next thing over here, sort of summarize this particular section. You know, if you're looking at which services or how to sort of build it out, select the strongest area to get the leads, extend to provide additional services, or articulate your existing services better, form alliances for areas that are needed, but you can't provide, or become an alliance to other companies that need your service. We'll talk about that in just a second here. Okay, and then consider hiring later to gain immediate expertise in areas that show promise, but you can always form alliances for other individuals that can help you to grow into other areas, or you can become an alliance for different groups that need your expertise also, and that's what we'll be referring to. Just to complete the 4 Ps of the marketing mix, there's product, then there's price, then there's placement, which is part of the alliances, and then there's promotions. So I'm not going to be talking about price, but I do want to make sure that at least I bring that up because I did mention 4. Okay, placement. Now it's time to sell. So I recommend that you sell new services to existing clients. Low-hanging fruit, you already have that relationship with them. So let's say that you extend your services a little bit rather than starting from scratch. Just go after your existing base. It sounds obvious, but some people don't do it. Also, always remember that we want to sell 1 step at a time. So oftentimes, like with my business, all I have to do is sell people on a free assessment. Once I do my free assessment, then that's something that I can just, you know, at least now at least I know where all the holes are, so I know other areas that I can help them with. And then I can explain how I can fill these holes, and then I can recommend you know, easy in, easy out, month to month. So I have a month to month type of a program that I run. And consulting is addictive. I mean, if you show value and you can continue showing a value, then you can continue helping those particular companies. Okay, and over here, another way in placement is also with alliances. And so when you're trying to sort of figure out how would you provide additional services. Let's say, for example, you've discovered that this person is making $2 million. They thought their business was worth $5 million, and instead of sitting there in this wake of disappointment, you can then show them, I can actually show you how to build your business up to $5 million. There's some very obvious holes that I can point out. I can do a free assessment with you, and I can sort of show you where those holes are of how to build it. And so for that, even if you can't do the assessment itself, you can immediately find somebody else who's a business consultant, have them come in under your label, and then you can make a margin off of that. And so I'll give you some examples of that. So you can come in as the primary contractor, bring others in underneath your brand, or you can refer people in. And sometimes when you do that, you can just refer them into just to make sure the company gets the help, or you can set up a reciprocal referral program over here, where you can refer people to their business, but in turn, if they find somebody else that needs evaluation, they can refer that same person back to you. And a lot of times I'll have reciprocal referral fees, but usually the only ones that I have are companies where I send them a lead and then they turn around and send me a lead. So when they send me a lead, I might give them a 10% referral fee over the length of that engagement. And then if they want their money back, then they send me a referral, or excuse me, then if I want my money back, I send them a referral, and they in turn give me 10% back. So it's a net even, but the difference is that each one is referring business to each other, so it saves you on the prospecting, which I assume if you're a professional evaluator, you're probably not a professional salesperson or professional marketer that generates leads, so you don't want to have to prospect. Okay, now we're going to talk about something completely different. This is if you want to add additional services onto yours. Again, you've got the person, you see what their valuation is worth, $2 million. You know that they could be worth $5 million. You don't know how to do it, but you can bring other people around it. And let's say, for example, if they charge, let's say $300 an hour, then you might bill the company out for $400 an hour. In return, you make $100 an hour just to project manage that. And that just may mean that you show up for some of those meetings. It may not be very difficult at all, but you've extended your services and you haven't just let that $100 an hour just walk away when this company definitely wants help, and you've got the resources to be able to help them, even if it's not in-house. Okay,
and
now
let me just say this too. I think, this also applies if you're trying to extend your services in valuation, for example. Let's say, you're running into some clients that have some, the IRS is involved and you're helping them consult. I know there's people out there, that do that thing. Michael Gregory, for example, is an expert in that area. You can find ways to extend your services in the valuation world as well. Figure out the things you're really strong at, figure out the ways you want to go, and figure out, how you can get help, resources. Mike Gregory is an excellent idea for someone that's helping someone, fight an IRS claim on a valuation. So I think, you can grow your services outside of valuation, but also valuation is so broad, and there's so many subspecialties and so many subtle areas of expertise that I would encourage you to think about, building expertise in those areas and look around your world and see what kind of things are needed. So I would encourage you to take this conversation as both adding, other services way outside of valuation, but also extending your valuation services to include those subtle kind of things that make a big difference.
Okay, good. Let me give you some examples now of how you can become the alliance partner for somebody else. So these are 3 different examples. One is SaaSMAX, evaluated SaaS distributor. The next is JH&A, an ad agency. The next is a law firm. This is the same law firm, but I'll sort of show you how that would work. Okay, so SaaSMAX, they are a distributor of products like Salesforce and Google Docs. So, for example, if a reseller is looking for these type of products, they could go to SaaSMAX. They've got a marketplace. They show all these different SaaS products. The reseller, if he's part of SaaSMAX, he can also sell those other products that are part of that marketplace. Okay, so it helps vendors to get their products sold to end users through resellers. But before vendors can sell through a reseller, they must have a reseller partner program. They must have levels. They need to know how much margins they are. They need to have their PowerPoints put together. They have to have all the sales materials put together for all of that. They may not know how to do any of that stuff. So they need consulting help. So SaaSMAX over there, they don't have full-time consultants. So their team is building other aspects of their business, but on consulting, they sub it out to me. As a matter of fact, I'm listed on their leadership page over here as their CMO, and also their chief consultant for micro consulting. So I charge my normal rate, and then they mark it up $100 an hour. So all I do is they bring me some and they say, hey, Ted, I've got an assessment. It's during this time. I take a look at my schedule. And so I just send them copies of my schedule constantly, like right here. This sort of looks like what it looks like on a regular type basis. Starts to get filled up with appointments. So I just show them where I've got openings. They book it in. I do a free assessment, just a series of questions that I ask that sort of tells me where they're at. And then I transfer this information back over to the company. They close the deal. So they do the prospecting, they set up the appointment, they close the deals, they collect. I just send them a bill, and even then, my billing process is automatic. It's something called Zero, and it just automatically bills them on a monthly basis, and it bills SaaSMAX. I don't even bill the customer. I don't have to deal with any of that cash flow stuff or anything. So I get paid from them and go in under their brand. I'm listed as a CMO and chief consultant. I do the micro consulting. I've also trained their other team members to do micro consulting. And for that, I've also got stock options in the company. So these are ways to form alliances with other companies. And so you're their professional evaluation go-to person within their firm or their organization or their accounting group. You don't have to work for them. Like in this particular case, you may carry business cards of theirs, but 1/3 of my business. So I worked with 6 to 18 companies. So at times, if I'm running with 18 companies, I might have 6, 7, 5 of those companies that are all from SaaSMAX. So that's how I just sort of got that business. I also have, and I'm using SaaSMAX as an example, but I also have a lot of VCs that have invested millions of dollars in some of these companies. They see the companies are floundering around. They need execution, channel stuff, and marketing stuff. So they just bring it straight in. And some of those, one of the VCs, I come in as the consultant from the VC itself, and they don't even know that I've actually got my own corporation. Okay. So it's an amazing way where these are areas, prospecting, closing, collecting, selling, promoting, promotions. It's probably not your area of expertise. So you let somebody else do it, and then you just concentrate on what you do best, and you use the alliance to be able to get that business. Okay, this is something else over here. There's a company here in town, JH&A, and so this here shows what their services are, strategic branding and everything else. Okay, but you don't see video on their list of services. But they had a lot of requests for videos, but it's not part of their general expertise. So they hired me to produce their videos. So I started my career in the early 80s making animations, competing against Disney and Hanna-Barbera for 7 years. And so for me, producing videos for me is just a passion. It's not even my main work. I just love to do it. So they had seen a lot of my work before, and most of the stuff I concentrated on was corporate videos, trade show videos, and training videos, and maybe sort of selling the corporation for investment, that kind of stuff. So they marked up my price. I just charged them my normal price, going rate. I used to charge them a discount, but after a while I didn't even do that because they marked it up so high. So they marked it up $100 to $300 an hour on top of whatever I charged them. I had their business cards, went under their label. They did the prospecting, they closed the business, projected project management, billed, collected, cash flowed. I produced over 100 videos and I billed them. So this is what it would look like over here. Produce the videos for 3M, Motorola, GE, Dell, over 80% of my video work. Because it's like, oh, I don't have time to prospect for that. So I had a website, but I wasn't, even though I can and I know how, I wasn't even bothering to promote my own stuff. They brought in almost all my business, and the extra business came in from just companies I was consulting with. So the alliance is a lead machine. Okay, so let's come over here now to a services business. So Hopkins, the same attorney, like I mentioned, they won 92% of all their appellate cases. So we come over here, they were hired by other firms for appellate trials. The other firms did the prospecting, they did the selling, they did the scheduling, they did the billing, they collected. Hopkins bills the other firms at their normal rates. They handle all the court stuff. And what they do, their only type of promotion is they just network with other law firms. And so they just go to law associations, everything else. And pretty soon their reputation starts to grow. But they would put things, we closed 2% of all their appellate cases. I talked about I said, you guys, put your strongest advantage right on your business cards. And so they handed it, so you guys are appellate case experts. And they said, yep. Can they do other stuff? Sure, but that actually competes with the other law firms. So to form the alliance, they just concentrate on the one area where they can help the other law firms. We can handle your appellate cases. And seeing they preferred to win than lose, then it works out very well for them. So they do none of the marketing, selling, billing, collection, just the fun stuff. So again, the alliance is a lead machine. So let's talk about these alliances. First, when to set them up. So when you need help, let's say again, you're doing a valuation and you want to say, hey, maybe I can increase the value of this company. So let me see if I can find a good market consultant out there. Or you can use software like Core Value that's like a consultant in a box and start to learn this practice yourself. But otherwise, you can at least find a professional that helps businesses to grow their value. And once you've done that, then you can act as the primary, so they just come in under yours. Even big firms like Accenture, one of the companies I worked with, we had 20,000 consultants, and Accenture used us massively. They could use like 1,000 people at once for their big projects, including even some of the big government projects that they would do. And yet none of those people were working at Accenture. They were all working with our company. So you can act as the primary, or you can refer people to, let me put you in contact with John, and John can help you to improve your company, and you can collect a referral fee if you do it that way. Or even if you don't, you can have a reciprocal relationship. You're expecting John to send you leads, and you'll send John leads. And so neither one of you actually have to prospect. Once you've got a contact, you can keep them in the family. So I have over 22 different alliances. Actually, I have 27 now. Some have reciprocal referral fees. Some of those, like the web person that I work with, I just met him at one of my companies and I like him, so I just refer him over. I don't have any kind of reciprocal arrangement with him, except for the fact that he makes me look good because he makes the company I'm working with look good. So the other part is when you want to help. So the attorneys, they need valuation services. They should use you. Attorneys that need help determining damages, let's say if you were to diversify. VCs that might need to know what a company might be worth. Corporate brokers, tax attorneys, and so forth. So you know your vertical markets better than I do, and certainly even those in your region. But the key on this is be systematically setting these up. So I have a kit called a Chanimal Alliance Kit. ValuSource has a copy of it, so they can send it to you afterwards. And it shows the first thing you do is you set up your alliance program, you recruit your alliances, and then you leverage your alliances. You start to leverage these relationships. The key to all relationships, alliances, is can you make more money together than separately? If you can answer that question, you can form an alliance with another company. If the attorney can suddenly provide valuation services, and let's say that attorney marks your price up, or you give them a 10% referral fee, and so that attorney can make more money with you than without you, then he's doing the prospecting for you. If you're going in under their label, they're also doing the collecting for you. So again, see how fast that generates leads for you? Okay, so, and there's a lot of valuators out there that have some of these type of alliances. But see, like in my case, I just stopped with JH&A because 80% of all my work was coming from them. I was swamped with my consulting. You saw my schedule, let alone all my video work. I just couldn't handle it anymore. What a wonderful place to be at. If I wanted to scale my business, I could hire more and more people, and all I do is I pick up another agency in town and another agency in town and another agency, and I just sort of build that whole model out. It's very easy. They just know I can do it. They come to me when they need help for that, and I've got more work in-house, and I didn't have to prospect for it. This Chanimal Alliance worksheet that I've got, this will show you all the different steps. So you usually pick non-competitors that are targeting the same market. Attorneys, consultants, maybe brought in already, you just have to formalize the process. And also look at some of your other valuators that are around your region that you might run up against. Do they have any alliances? Fine, contact their alliance, disrupt their exclusivity. When I was at GE, we always had a mantra. It was the number 1 or number 2 position, or you're out of town. They might give you, let's say, 3-4 years. Let's say it's 3 years. You either have to become the number 1 or number 2, or you're all fired. It's a strong incentive for everybody to dominate the space. And so we would often look at our competitors' alliances, and we would suck them all over with a stronger alliance. We'd starve them out. We'd take a look at their distributors. We'd try to see if we could strike. It's like GE or Mr. No Name, but if you go with us, it's exclusive. And so we would kill all of this is perfectly legal, and these are all just counter-strike campaigns that we would do. But I just bring all my team into the war room. We'd analyze competitor after competitor, each one, as to what we could actually do. So you do the same thing here. Just poach from your competitors' alliances. And then when you put them out of business, always be friendly to the people, because then you can just hire them for all the extra business, and they'll actually be working with their existing clients. Okay, so the next thing over here is, so how do you do this? You identify the areas or categories where you can help the other company or group with valuations. So again, look at your different attorneys, look at venture capitalists, look at brokers, look at accounting firms. Again, your space even better than I do. So you look at each of those areas. So let's say you take attorneys and say, okay, divorce attorneys. Let's say tax attorneys. Let's say different ones within your attorney. And then what you do is over here is, here's the type, and then here's our benefit, here's their benefit, here's some things we could do together. The key is don't call them up until you know how they can make more money than without you. One of the companies I was working with asked me to step into an alliance meeting. I stepped in there, and she was humming and hawing and saying, well, we just called to sort of see how we could work together. I was like, oh my goodness, we did not just do this. We should have called them up and said, here's how we can work together. You've got all of these tax people. They also need a valuation to be able to do that tax properly, or they need a double valuation of the previous valuator to ensure that they're going to win against the IRS. Okay, so once you've got your argument down, then you contact them. So you prioritize the types. So let's say, for example, if you looked at that and said, okay, I do really well with divorce attorneys. I've already got 2, and they're generating half my business. Why don't I find 2 more? Okay, and you don't even have to worry about the other categories. Just use those. Or let's say you want to diversify. Then you list each one of those, prioritize those. It's always a key to prioritize your alliances, otherwise you'll run out of bandwidth. And you put the bigger firms on the top, the ones that are going to add more equity to you, that have got more business. You know, it might seem more intimidating, but the larger the corporation, the more they need alliances. I've got a presentation that you can watch that goes into even more detail about alliances, and it shows why the big companies need the small companies. Sort of like, why do the white whales need these little sucker fish all the way around them, and how they're symbiotic. So I'll just tell you, for example, like I was Motorola, they were laying off 48,000 people. I had a division that was going from 10 to 1.3 billion in size, and I couldn't hire anybody. But I had a good sized budget. I couldn't hire anyone because it just was almost unethical. You know, HR would say, how could we hire anybody when we're laying all these people off? And I was like, so you're starving the division that's going to make all the money so you don't have to lay off as many people? Go figure. So what I did is I talked to my alliances and I said, okay, if you'll hire the people for this, I'll pay it. So let's say their salary is $60,000, I'll give you $100,000 per person, I need 4. And I formed 17 alliances and I dumped my budgets into those companies because I didn't have the bandwidth to do anything all by my little small groups stuff. So I would manage those people in the other companies. And did they love it? Absolutely. They went out there tied in at the hip with a $48 billion corporation and loved life. Okay, and they made a markup on all of that stuff. Plus, their own product came in as part of the alliance. Okay, so this here just shows a systematic way to do it. You list your company here. You list which one has the market share. You start at the top of the list. Then you go to the next category. You do the same thing. So it's a simple little spreadsheet. And then this here shows what's on the right of the spreadsheet because I couldn't show it all here and still show anything. And so over here's where I have my first meeting. Then I would do different things with the company to be able to do it. But this sort of shows you it's a very systematic process, not very difficult. You only need, for your existing practice, maybe 2 or 3 other alliances, and you're probably all booked up. So forget about all this lead stuff that we talk about in a moment. Scrap that, just go for the alliances. Okay, so do not start until you have the following done. Identify a compelling business case for them. Identify even more for you, an even more compelling business case for them. Determine potential ways that you can work together, make the initial contact in the company, and that's it. And have several of them all lined up, going by market share. The biggest ones in town, go with those guys first. If they've got more business, they'll keep you totally flooded. And so determine your first project together, plan additional projects, continue to expand, and move into other categories. Start with brokers, move to divorce attorneys, so forth, prioritize by market share, your bandwidth fill up quick, and then that's time to hire new people. Your business is growing. Okay, alliance benefits. You do not have to promote, prospect, follow up, sell, or collect. You just do what you do, rinse and repeat, do it over again, and there it is, your #1 source for leads. Just that fast. With Chanimal, the last time I did any promotions whatsoever was 7 years ago. Since that time, even though I'm perfectly capable of running promotions, I don't. There is one promotion that I do, and that is my website. Okay, but it's just sort of like what I do to increase the percentage of people that close when they hit my website. In this presentation, there is a link here. You can watch a full 1-hour video just on alliances. This is the basic overview to introduce the concept. But this right here is if you really dig into that and you want to know more, this should be enough to get you going. But if you need any more, it's right there. Plus, you've got a complete kit, and you'll get that from the team at ValuSource. Okay, so now let's talk about promotions. We can talk about SEO with your website, but again, if your website doesn't have good positioning, you're not going to get conversion. Okay, with PR, there's some really cool things you can do over there on PR, even setting up, with one of my companies, we set ourselves up so that we wrote a monthly article for Byte Magazine. Another one, we created a monthly, we didn't have the bandwidth to do it weekly, but once a month, we would do a special 1-hour show for some certain radio sections that were syndicated. So we would have millions of people listening in, and we would talk about areas that we were expert at. And so that establishes even further credibility for you. So see, there's a lot of this kind of stuff you can do. Your content marketing, you can also do that and create your own build-up list on that. Your social marketing, especially your LinkedIn, managing some different forums on valuations, people looking for that services. You're the only banner ad within your LinkedIn forum. direct response, advertising, and so forth. But the first thing I do, just to make it really easy, start with your website. Get your content and your conversion. Get your positioning, your why to buy articulated. Put it on your website. Let me show you what it looks like, and then we're almost done. Okay, so this is what my Chanimal website looks like on the section that talks about consulting. And so remember how I talked about that format? A video is going to fire up here, so let's stop that. Okay, so look at this. Here's the problem, and by the way, let me bring this up so it's a little bit bigger.
Just a reminder, we're at about 12:55.
Yep. And this is my last slide.
Okay.
Okay, so voted one of the top 5. So here it is. Here's the problem. Here's the alternatives. See, and I'm listing my companies I'm working for down on the right. Here's the solution. See the persuasive format? Here's something, the finalist. Actually, I was the award winner, but I sat on the board of advisors forums, so I thought, just put me in the top 5. I'm good enough. Okay, because otherwise it sort of looks like it looked a little fishy there. Okay, but it didn't matter for me. I already had lots of credibility with my client base. Okay, so I've helped with these. So simple process sort of shows them what to do, some testimonials that validate it from credible sources, and then I have additional information over here with this kind of a format. And here's my client list over here. And then if someone wants to know, okay, what's the process for your consulting? So essentially, I sort of just answer most of the questions. I take them through all of this stuff. What can they expect? What kind of results can they expect? And it's, you know, here's all kinds of stuff that they could expect. Here's Q&A. Here's my pricing. Here's my testimonials. I even put my agreement. When people call from the website, my #1 question is, yeah, I've seen your micro consulting process. Do you have any openings? I close 94% of everyone that hits me from the website. Okay, so when I talked about your #1 piece of collateral, it's your website. It's your #1 promotion. Just put this basic stuff right on your website itself, and people come to you, and the deal's pretty much already closed if you follow that format. And you can even go here and sort of see the format that I use. Just replicate it, and you'll be set. Okay, so in conclusion, you've learned how to add new services, grow your business that way. You've learned some initial concepts of how to create 3 to 5 reasons someone to be a fool not to buy your services. You've started to learn how to set up some killer alliances, some sort of basic processes there, and why you should even do it. We've talked a little bit about the promotions. I can talk again about some of those, but the biggest thing is just hook in with the alliances, get your website. Those 2 things are simple enough for someone who's never done this before to do, and it'll produce, you know, most of your results already. And then there's much more available on the other sources over there. Comments, questions, feedback.
If anybody has any questions, you can type them into the questions window on the go to webinar box. But let me just say this. I think you know, marketing valuation services is one of those things that some people do it really well, sort of intuitively. I know it's one of the things I hear from a lot of people that it's a challenge. But I think you know, using these general concepts, we can create a very specific plan to you know, increase our exposure. And as Ted said, the website is #1. You know, I'll be honest, most evaluators' websites from a selling perspective are terrible. There's no reasons to hire them. It's just sort of a list of their bio and, you know, sort of the valuations of what they do. But there's no credibility building. There's no real argument about why they should be using them. There's no sort of differentiators there. So that's one of the things you could do. I'd encourage you today, when you get off this call, look at your website and say, if you went to your website, you know, would you go to you to buy valuation services? If not, you know, make a few simple changes. I think some of the stuff that Ted is talking about, you know, is a pretty sophisticated kind of a plan, but you can take the nuggets out of this and create some really powerful things to very simply differentiate your site. Website is one gigantic kind of reason. And if you go through the steps to, you know, create a persuasive argument on your website, you know, making it look better, having something persuasive, you'll get more people, you know, calling you and asking about, you know, using you, because the website is, you know, whether they found you through the website or not, everyone's going to look at your website. So that is just a gigantic gaping hole in most people's sites, and it should look nice too. These days, it's really pretty easy to get a nice, you know, WordPress-based website. You can just Google WordPress developers and find them. You guys don't need big, sophisticated things, but look around. If your website doesn't look and feel like, you know, the top 10% websites out there, you know, change it. So Ted, I don't know if you have any other, you know, basic simple steps to get these guys started in, you know, making a better marketing and sales sort of platform to generate more business.
Well, among the, you know, let's say 50 different disciplines, I already narrowed the field down. That's half the way to try to. It's the reason why this thing takes so long to put this together, is trying to focus it in on those things that would help a professional evaluator. So I've tried to give you maybe the 20% of the things that are going to produce 80% of your results, just in the material that I presented.
Okay, good.
Ted,
So if anybody has any questions,
we have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Are you saying we can get the Alliance program from you? I think just to clarify where the Alliance program would come from.
Yeah, I'll send you a kit.
Ted, will you make sure Melissa has that and she can email everybody out that kit? And also,
she'll have a copy of the actual Alliance kit.
Yeah, and also the persuasive document format. You have a document on that? So why don't we send you guys the persuasive document format and the Alliance kit, and that'll give you a ton of good information. I know that persuasive document, the persuasive argument document, has really changed my entire thinking about business, about selling things, about communicating. That thing is worth reading 4 or 5 times, and it's relatively simple. Once you get it, you know, you can look at your own practice or whatever other services you're selling and start to think about convincing people in your communications to work with you, rather than just telling them what you do. You're really changing it to why they should work with you, what advantages it, why are you different, you know, how's it going to meet their needs. A subtle shift in thinking, gigantic shift in results. So Ted, if you could send her the persuasive document and the Alliance kit, we can get you guys started.
Yeah, and then I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy.
Okay. Well, I think that's 1 o'clock. We're 1 minute over. Ted, thank you so much for presenting this. Everybody that attended, thank you very much for spending an hour with us. I hope you found it valuable. I'll tell you again, Ted has really changed my marketing and sales life. He's been a huge help at ValuSource, and I was you know, excited to have him make a specific program just to give valuators a sense of how this whole marketing and sales thing works. So you guys know how to get hold of me at ValuSource. If you want to get hold of Ted, do it through me. I think his website has his email on it, so it's www.chanimal.com if you want to go directly there. And that's a wealth of information too. It's hundreds of pages of awesome content on marketing and sales. So have a good afternoon, and we'll follow up sometime soon with another version of Ted's How to Grow Your Practice series.
Thank you very much, guys.